Hi, I'm Leo Laporte with a review of the latest iPad, the iPad mini from Apple. Now, I got the Wi-Fi version, so it just came in. They come in black and white and in a couple of different memory configurations, 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes. This is a Wi-Fi black, as you can see, 32 gigabyte. I'm actually glad I didn't get the smallest size because I've loaded this up not just with apps, but also books and movies and TV shows for my plane flight to Australia. This is going to be, I decided, my device of choice for traveling, and mostly because of the size. Here's a standard iPad. This is the third generation iPad, and the mini, it actually fits into the screen of the original iPad with room left over. It's about as wide as a screen and maybe a half-inch shorter. That gives you some idea of the difference. Instead of being 9.7 inches, the iPad mini is 7.9 inches. There are some other sacrifices, too. It is a slower processor, more like an iPad 2. Battery life's about the same, but the biggest loss, frankly, is the screen. I don't really understand why Apple didn't make the iPad mini a Retina display. It isn't. It's 1024 by 768. I guess that's probably how they kept the price a little bit low, but if you're used to a Retina display, as I am with my iPad, you're going to notice the jaggy text when you read and when you look closely on games and things. Having said that, because it's only 1025 by 768, 1024 by 768, it's snappy, it's fast. You don't notice the lack of processor speed by any means. And I'm really seeing this as a content consumption device more than a content creation device. It's just small enough that you probably don't want to type on the keyboard a whole heck of a lot. It's just a little bit too small to easily use. Of course, if you have a standalone keyboard, it's going to be designed for the width of the iPad, not the mini, and it's going to look a little bit funky. A Bluetooth keyboard would probably look all right. But I think this is, I'm seeing this more as a kind of almost a Kindle, where it's good for reading, for watching videos, for participating in social networks, and for taking pictures. And that's one thing that the iPad mini has that I'm pleased about. One of the reasons it might be a better choice for you than a Kindle Nexus 7. The Nexus 7 is roughly the same size. It's 16 by 9 instead of the 4 by 3 aspect ratio that the iPad mini is. The Nexus 7 also is a higher resolution, higher dots per inch, but it doesn't have a rear-facing camera. So if taking pictures is something that you want to do with your mini tablet, then the iPad mini is probably a better choice than the Nexus 7. Having said that, the iPad mini is a lot more expensive. Google just dropped the price on the Nexus 7, and you're spending about $130 more to get an iOS device and a rear-facing camera. So pros and cons on the iPad mini. Well, I do like the size. In fact, I prefer the size of the iPad mini to the traditional iPad. It's a lot lighter, it's thinner, and it's just easier to hold in the hand. I won't have any trouble reading in bed with this, for instance. It's more like a Kindle in that respect. The screen does look great. I mean, it's great color. It's very responsive. It feels good, and I kind of like the black back and the bezel. This looks more like the design of the iPhone 5 than it does of the more traditional mini. Cons: not a Retina display, and they only put a 5-megapixel camera in here, not the 8-megapixel you would get on the iPhone 5. Price is a mixed bag. It's a lot less than an iPad. It's the least expensive iPad, $329 for 16 gigabytes, $100 more to add another 16 gigs, and another $100 to get up to 64 gigs. But that's a little pricey. $429 for this 32 gig iPad mini, when $499 get me a 16 gig regular iPad with a Retina display. And, of course, when you compare it to the Kindle HD Fire, which is $200, or the Nexus 7, which is $200, it really doesn't seem like a very good deal at all. It seems a little bit pricey. Here's what I wish. I wish Apple had said, fine, we'll put the faster processor in. We'll put a Retina display in. Maybe even put a better camera in. Charge more for it. But tell people, look, it's everything that the iPad 4th generation is. It's just a little bit more compact. That would have made me happier. Apple kind of compromised. They didn't get it as inexpensive as the competitors and they didn't get as powerful as their big iPad mini. So try, buy, don't buy. I have to say, I'm going to give this a don't buy. I'm very happy I have it. I actually love it, and I'm going to carry it. But I just have a feeling that Apple, maybe even in a few months, will release a Retina version of the iPad mini. And many people will say, gee, I wish I had that instead. So I've got to say, lack of a Retina display means don't buy. I know that I am one of the few that everybody's going to run out and get them. And frankly, I'm kind of glad I have it. It's really great for gaming and watching movies and video and so forth. It's cute. By the way, you can't hold it in a single hand. That's a stretch. That's like a yoga pose. Buy it only if you're willing to grit your teeth when Apple comes up with an upgraded Retina version of the iPad mini next year. For Before You Buy, I'm Leo Laporte. Back to you, Sarah.